Federal agents called it a massive investigation. A YouTube video helped trigger it. And Minnesota's largest Somali community got caught in the crossfire of suspicion and politics. Today, we pull apart the claims from the receipts. You'll see how CCAP funding actually works, why some centers in that viral video passed inspections, and where regulators say the true weak points are. If you want accountability without guesswork, this is the breakdown you need. If you hate fraud and millions of tax dollars going to illegitimate businesses, please like and subscribe. Empty lots went viral because they felt like proof. But licensing doesn't run on feelings. It runs on files, visits, and rules. Nick Shirley's walkthroughs showed shuttered doors, dark windows, and no playground noise. The core claim landed hard. Public money kept flowing to centers that looked idle. That visual stuck, and it spread. Yet when reporters retraced those stops, a different record surfaced alongside the footage. CNN and PBS found several of the same locations had active licenses and recent inspections. One facility had about 50 children present when PBS dropped in, which clashes with the quiet shots in the video. The split isn't mysterious once you look at timing and access. If you stop by during nap hours, a late shift, or a day the program is scheduled to open after school, the building can look still. Many centers lock their doors and use buzzers or key cards for safety. Staff may refuse entry to cameras to protect children's privacy. None of that equals misconduct. It's baseline practice. Take the Quality Learning Center example. The manager said the filming happened while they were closed, with posted hours from 2 to 10 p.m. A state review in June flagged missing training hours and gaps in medication documentation. Those are fixable logged violations, not evidence of ghost operations. Even the misspelling over the door, leering, was explained as a sign error being corrected. Inspections often produce small findings like these. They lead to corrective plans, not criminal charges. This is where visuals and regulations part ways. A quiet lot, tinted glass, or a locked vestibule draws clicks. Regulators look for different signals. Enrollment claims that don't match attendance. Rosters with the same child ID repeated. Timesheets altered after the fact. Or billing on days a child wasn't scheduled. Those are the red flags that escalate to fraud units. A late CPR certificate or an incomplete medication log is non-compliance. It can trigger fines or a conditional license, but doesn't prove false billing. Some places in the video did have prior violations on the books. But violations sit on a spectrum. Civil penalties address safety or paperwork lapses. Fraud triggers come when there's intent to deceive the payment system. That's the question viewers never got from the drone shots and parking lot pans. How many of these sites were actually shut down for fraud at that moment? And how many were operating under valid licenses with ordinary fixes underway? State teams went back out after the video. CBS reported 2 of the centers had already closed, though one later told the state it planned to stay open. Others kept serving families and had recent visits on file. Investigators described a mixed map. Some sites operational and compliant, others under review. The footage lit the fuse for more checks, but it did not, by itself, prove a network of empty shells billing the state. If the pictures pulled millions toward one conclusion, federal agents chased a different trail entirely. The payment rules that make or break a fraud case. Locked doors don't stop payments. The money moves through rules, not doorbells. And CCAP's rules decide when a claim is valid. That's why a quiet building can still bill. The state pays based on eligible children tied to that provider and the attendance the provider reports. Capacity signs on the wall don't matter. Enrollment and eligibility do. That's the baseline. It explains why a drive-by tells you almost nothing about whether a week's claims are legitimate. Here's the mechanics. A family qualifies. The child is enrolled, and the provider logs attendance by day and by care type. Full day, part day, school-age hours. Providers keep sign-in and sign-out records, daily attendance sheets, and supporting notes for absences that still qualify, like illness within policy rules. Claims flow through the state system, which checks dates, rates, and eligibility status. If a child attends Monday and Tuesday, the provider can bill for Monday and Tuesday, even if you show up Thursday at 7 p.m. and the lot is empty. Off-hours footage says nothing about prior attendance. Now the window where it can be gamed. If the system trusts reported attendance, bad actors can inflate it. That's where inflated rosters, recycled entries, and falsified documents creep in. A fraud pattern might stitch together fabricated child files, cloned identities with minor spelling changes, or kickbacks for parents to sign false sheets. You also see billing for days a child wasn't scheduled or was known to be elsewhere. The tell is not silence in a hallway. It's records that don't line up across systems. State officials say their fraud reviews did not start with the viral clip. They had already increased audits, started more data matching to catch duplicate IDs and odd schedule patterns, and used unannounced checks to compare records on-site with claims in the portal. In practice, that means pulling a month of rosters, verifying paper or electronic sign-ins, sampling child files for eligibility proofs, and cross-checking that the same staffer isn't signing for multiple families. Data screens flag anomalies, attendance at impossible hours, clusters of identical in and out times, or billing on days the program reported being closed. The failures show up where documentation is thin, parent signatures look copy-pasted, or the child's eligibility lapsed without a stop in billing. With the details mapped, the next wave didn't come out of nowhere. A prior mega case set the tempo and framed the door knocks that followed. Follow the money mechanics, and the next chapter starts in 2020. Feeding Our Future, a COVID-era nutrition program sponsor, exploded into a headline case after prosecutors said it siphoned an estimated $250 million by claiming meals for children who never received them. Dozens of defendants face charges starting in 2022, and authorities say they have recovered about $60 million so far. That case trained investigators to treat pandemic-era relief streams as targets for organized schemes, not isolated one-offs. When federal raids restarted in Minnesota, officials described a broader sweep that extended beyond childcare into other Medicaid-funded programs, signaling they were looking at systems, not a single sector. After the Feeding Our Future case, the net tightened. Vendor vetting got stricter with more checks before approval. Analytics grew sharper, looking for outlier billing curves and repeat identity elements. Agencies began passing leads faster, so a licensing concern could reach a payment integrity team and then law enforcement if intent appeared. That timeline matters, because some centers with minor issues ended up in the same conversation as centers under active fraud review. Late training certificates or incomplete medication logs are non-compliance. Knowingly submitting false attendance to get paid is CCAP fraud. One gets corrective action. The other triggers pay holds and referrals. Why call it massive? Once agents prove large-scale fraud in one program, they hunt for repeatable patterns. Shell organizations appear and disappear with new names. Invoice mills spin out identical service records. Identities get recycled with slight spelling changes. The investigative mindset becomes pattern first. Find the network architecture, then map where the same tactics migrate. In Minnesota, that meant childcare claims were examined alongside other health and human services spending, with teams expecting to see the same toolkit used in a different lane. Politics amplified the volume. National rhetoric about immigration and crime primed the public for fast, visible action. So door knocks and seizures carried outsized weight before case files were complete. Minnesota officials pushed back on sweeping figures, including a widely cited $9 billion claim tied to Medicaid-funded programs, arguing the totals leaned on extrapolation rather than finished audits. They also said enforcement upgrades were already moving. More audits, tighter vetting, cross-agency referrals. Federal voices, by contrast, stressed systemic scope and kept the massive investigation label front and center. The community felt the collision. Minnesota's Somali population, the largest in the country, watched enforcement headlines merge with political soundbites, and stigma followed. Advocates warned about fear and due process risks as families and businesses fielded questions that leapt from allegations to assumptions. The broader context matters here. While many defendants in the Feeding Our Future case are Somali Americans, Amy Bach, the nonprofit's former leader, is not, underscoring that the scheme's architecture crossed community lines. On the ground, outcomes were mixed. Reviews of sites swept up in the new wave found some were compliant or legally operating, even as others drew deeper scrutiny. Licensing files showed active operations with recent inspections and common citations like safety or training issues, not documented fraud.